Here it is, the audiophile's brand new pride and joy turntable. And here is the audiophile thinking deeply about has he got everything right before dropping the needle for the very first time. It's a monumentous occasion. I hope you enjoyed that little intro, meant purely just for a bit of fun, but it is true. I have my first ever turntable, which you can see just there, just there behind me. And it is a monumentous occasion for me because I've been an audiophile for over 20 years. And quite ironically, these records are my parents'. I actually borrowed these from my parents recently. And as a child, I don't ever remember my parents playing records in the family home. So I didn't grow up around vinyl playback at all. So it is a monumentous thing for me to have my first one after all of these years, because I am literally starting from the beginning. I'm starting the vinyl journey from the beginning with almost no experience. And you might ask the question, why now? And I think my first answer would be midlife crisis. But I will admit, I love the aesthetic of turntables. They are interesting devices with mechanical parts and intricate designs. And I have heard some amazing sound from vinyl. So to me, it's an interesting, worthwhile journey to go on. But I know it's going to be a long journey with a lot to learn, and that is also a big part of the appeal. I also think, maybe hope that this journey might inspire some of you to get into vinyl playback, maybe for the first time, or to get back into vinyl playback again. But I've been very apprehensive to do this because I am an audiophile who's used to very good digital sound quality. I've been working on a very nice digital setup. A lot of it I've done myself for about 10 years. So coming into vinyl, there's a hell of a lot to do and get right. Yeah, I have been very apprehensive about taking it on because I was paranoid that if I don't get it right, the sound quality might not be very good. I might be underwhelmed by the sound quality, and that then might demotivate me, which is the last thing I wanted. And about a month ago, I went and visited Avid HiFi because they are a world famous turntable manufacturer. And I spoke at length to the guys there, and they really filled me with confidence that they know what they are doing and they make great turntables and more. I also got to speak to the engineers, the guys that make the products, and I saw them work, and that filled me with enough confidence to start my journey with an Avid INGENIUM plug-and-play turntable. What I liked about the INGENIUM was that it was a plug-and-play product. It was ready to be played pretty much straight out of the box, which meant I wouldn't need to focus and concentrate my attention on all the important small things. I could really focus my attention on the important large things. Avid told me that the INGENIUM is designed to be foolproof, but also offer a good amount of the Avid build and sound quality, as much as they can at its price point of £1,250. And because it's a record player, it's not really designed to be messed around with. It's not really intended to, adjust everything. It's actually adjusted and set up at the factory. So that meant I had a lot of confidence that I couldn't do it wrong. I couldn't set the turntable up wrong and then get, a bad sound performance. And that was a really big part of its appeal to me. But there is still some assembly required. But I must admit, it's an easy process and would have only taken me maybe an hour if I was not documenting it all on camera. And the instructions were brilliant, actually, really clear and easy to follow. You remove all the bits from the packaging, and straight away I was really impressed with the INGENIUM. It's heavy, it's solid, it feels like a high-end product. And I particularly like the A that's etched into the solid aluminium frame. Next, you install a tungsten carbide bearing into the top of the silver bit that sticks up. And this is a really important step to take before you lower the drive hub very gently down. And what's cool is you don't need any lubrication because this is a self-lubricating system. I also really like the idea that the INGENIUM has Avid's sapphire bearing technology built into it, the same sapphire bearing technology that's in the Acutus turntable, the top of the range, significantly more expensive turntable. And the overall design is different for the INGENIUM, obviously, to bring the cost down, but that sapphire bearing, that all-important design for reducing vibration, trying to get, unwanted vibration or bad vibration away from the record, away from the stylus, all as part of the turntable design, is still in place, still being used in this INGENIUM plug-and-play turntable, Avid's entry-level turntable, and that definitely was part of the appeal of it to me. Next step is to place the motor about 97mm to be exact from the center of the hub assembly, and you install the belt either on the top smaller groove for 45 RPM or the lower larger groove for 33 RPM. And the motor is completely separate to the turntable and is powered on and off with a switch, similar to what you see on a lamp, only bigger and nicer quality. I didn't capture myself installing the belt on the INGENIUM turntable purely because I did most of the video clips that you're seeing with the turntable here in the middle of the room and not back there in its final resting place, purely because it's easier to get it on camera when you can move around. And I was really quite apprehensive about that stage of the process. I thought it might be difficult, but it wasn't. It was really easy. And I was told to have clean hands when I did it, so I'll pass that information on to you. And it's interesting because I measured and set the motor up at 97mm the way I suggested, but it also says in the manual to experiment a little bit with that distance and really, I suppose, the tension of the belt, because that will directly relate to, the speed that the record is playing. And obviously we want to try and get it as close to exactly 33 or 45 as we can. So one of the things, or one of the skills that I think I'll need to learn initially is using a strobe disc. So maybe that's something that I'll put on camera for you if you'd like to see that. But again, the whole purpose of the INGENIUM plug and play is that you can set it up really easily. And so I haven't done that stage yet. And I've been listening to records and they sound the right speed to me. So have confidence. You don't have to learn the strobe in order to set this up, but OCD and all that. Next, you have to install the HDF platter, which is really easy. You just lower it down. And then you have the really nice and heavy Avid clamp that I think is a really nice design. So we are almost ready to play a record now, because the INGENIUM comes with an Avid TA1 tone arm and Avid CA1 moving magnet cartridge already fitted and correctly set up at the factory. All you need to do is add the counterweight to the rear of the arm and push it on. Twisting it is actually easier until it pushes up flush against the stop. That is really easy and foolproof. However, do make sure to push it very flush to the stop, and it might be a good idea to invest in some scales to confirm you have set this correctly. And I bought some cheap ones off Amazon to get me going, because if the counterbalance is not quite right, it can negatively affect the sound. However, again, this is not really needed. So long as you push the counterbalance up against the stop, you're going to be in the right tolerance for the cartridge. But again, scales, OCD, I think it's all steps in the right direction for the future. So we are ready to drop the needle now, right? Well, not quite. It's important to think about the turntable being level. And I will admit that I have kind of massively indulged myself here in buying an Avid level 45 spirit level, because I like the idea of fitting it on the turntable spindle to make sure I have the table centrally level. Moreover, I just really like the design, and I must have bought at least a dozen cheap spirit levels in my life. Every time I've done a DIY project, I've bought one and I couldn't tell you where any of them are. So yes, it's an indulgence, but it's part of the fun, and I will get to use it a lot. And while we're on the subject of the turntable being level, one thing that really stayed with me from my visit to Avid was when Conrad mentioned that it's really important to think about where you're going to place a turntable, that it's on a nice, solid and rigid surface. And I have a solid concrete floor in this listening room, which is probably an ideal floor, I would assume, for a turntable. I also have a really nice hi-fi rack, but I wanted to be triple sure and take the isolation of the turntable as far as I could initially. So I also got an Avid platform, which is like an additional hi-fi shelf that apparently has Sorbophane-like vibration absorption qualities. And I think it looks nice, and the oak colour matches well with my rack, which was really lucky. One last thing I got was the clear cover for the INGENIUM, because I suffer with a lot of dust in the listening room, and I think it makes sense to spend the extra money at the beginning to look after what you own from day one. So it's drop the needle time, right? Well, not quite, because we need a phono stage. Well, phono stage is critical for applying the rear curve to the signal that comes off of the turntable and for amplifying the very, very small signal that comes off of the cartridge. And speaking to Avid about the INGENIUM turntable, they think that a lot of owners of that turntable will likely use Phono Stages that might be built into their amplifiers or similar, and that makes a lot of sense to me. It's really easy, keeps things clean and nice and simple. But because I change equipment all the time, I actually wanted an external Phono Stage for practicality reasons and other things. So I reached out to John from Darko Audio, and without hesitation he recommended the HiFi Zen Phono to me, which for about £150 give or take seemed great to me. And I have reviewed other HiFi Zen products and they have always been great for the money, so I had confidence to get one. And the Zen Phono works with both moving magnets and moving coil cartridges. It has 4 different levels of gain, which is great for me and the future. The build quality is excellent and it's simple to use. You turn it on, change the gain if you need to, press the power button, the gain changes and you're done. It also has a subsonic filter to remove any rumble, but I've got to say, with the INGENIUM and this setup, I can turn that off. The Zen Phono comes with a power supply, but I already have a better 5V HiFi iPower X, so of course I will be using that because it would be crazy not to. So surely we are ready to drop the needle now? Well, not quite. One thing that's been hammered into me as even a non-playing audiophile is just how important it is to keep records really clean and dust and static free, which makes absolutely perfect sense to me now, because you might buy a brand new record, take it out of the plastic and it's filthy, it's covered in dust and debris and all sorts, and that's the last thing you want with a record, because the stylus, it doesn't know what it's playing, it's going to play literally everything that it touches. And I know there are lots of different types of record cleaning machines available: infrared, ultra red, simply red. And again, I wanted a quality machine without breaking the bank, so I bought the pro-ject VCE, which cost about £350, and it comes with some wash it cleaning fluid and a brush, and it's easy and simple to use. You clamp the record to it, apply some diluted wash it solution, use the brush to spread the fluid across the record, maybe give it a minute or so, and then move the suction arm round and hit the vacuum button and it sucks up all the liquid. You then hit the reverse button so the record plays the other direction and you repeat the process. And quite a few things were really interesting about this process. Firstly, it's incredibly rewarding for some reason seeing the liquid being sucked up off the record. I don't know why it is, but I really enjoy that part. Secondly, it's surprising just how much obvious dirt is cleaned off the record. Even brand new records, straight out of the plastic, look much cleaner. They have a sheen to them that they didn't have before they are cleaned, almost like you could eat your dinner off them. And of course, the novelty factor is still really high for me, but I have really enjoyed the process. I actually enjoy the process of cleaning the records because I think it just feels like you're doing something positive towards giving you better sound quality. But there are definitely a couple of downsides. Firstly, the VCE record cleaning machine, it's really very noisy. As soon as you engage that vacuum button, wow, it's really noisy. And I definitely wouldn't do the process late at night with the kids asleep upstairs. But I think that's probably the trade-off for the cost of the machine compared to some more expensive ones. I would also say it comes with 100 mils of pro-ject wash it cleaning solution, and you dilute that to about a 1.1 or a 1.2 ratio. So you end up with about 200 mils of liquid, which actually is quite a lot of liquid. You can clean quite a lot of records with it, but I think if you've got a larger record collection, then you'll want to invest in some more solution at the same time. I've already bought some more myself. So now we have clean records and everything set up properly. Can I please drop the needle now? Yes, and I have, and I've listened to quite a few records now, but I don't want to talk too much about my experiences for sound quality because I definitely need more time to tinker and just more time to listen and evaluate. But so far, you know what? I've been really impressed actually with the sound quality and everything, just the whole experience of listening to records on the INGENIUM turntable. And interestingly, I've had some really clean sounding vinyl experiences with just maybe the odd pop and crackle here and there, and some other ones where it's been kind of noticeably that there's more pop pops and crackles going on. And that's from brand new records, taken out of the plastic, cleaned. So clearly I've done something wrong in the process between one and the other, and that's all part of the, working things out. But overall, I've been massively impressed, like I say, with just the general sound quality. It's definitely not perfect yet. I need to give myself more time, obviously, for that, but it's just very engaging. I really like the vocals actually coming off of records, coming off of the INGENIUM and, HiFi setup. The vocals are really very engaging, and there is just something that's really cool about their music presentation. Soundstage is actually really very good too, so there's a huge amount of potential that I can hear already, and I know it's still very, very early days for me, and I think it's that potential, isn't it, that listening to it thinking, wow, I can really hear where this might go. And I think that's where the comments have come from some of you guys. Careful, Terry, vinyl is a really slippery slope, because knowing what I'm like, you guys have seen me enough now, knowing that I'm an OCD, passionate audiophile, that I'm likely to go on some crazy mission to try and get the very best sound out of, the turntable playback as I can. And, given the name of the channel, we're in pursuit of a perfect system, aren't we? That's what we share. We share that passion. Yeah, I can see why or where this could go in terms of, trying to, take it to an extreme. But you know what? I don't see that as a negative. I see that as a positive, a really big positive, actually, because, it just means there's, potentially new, really, really inspiring and interesting experiences for me to have, or you as well, if you obviously do this too. And I think I'm already doing some things correct, because I'm using a pro-ject record cleaning brush and their stylus cleaner brush too. And I already owned a Furatech D-Static or D-Stat device, but even using these correctly is all part of the learning curve. I have also bought some anti-static record sleeves from Amazon, but getting the record into them without touching the grooves is an art all to itself that I definitely haven't mastered yet. And I also definitely need to work on my vinyl collection, because it's, about this big at the moment. And I'm thinking of just buying records where I just really like the music. I'm not really too worried about seeking out these, first pressings of things. I'm sure that part of the addiction will come at some point, because I just want albums that I'm really happy to just sit and listen to, because it is a very different listening experience. Putting on a record and sitting and listening to it, going through that rigmarole of cleaning it, putting that clamp on, sitting down and listening to it is very, very, very different to, listening to music streamed from a server or from the cloud or whatever. It's very, very different. But I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. And it kind of puts me in a slightly different mood, I think, as well, listening to a record. I do feel a bit more relaxed until the point where I have to get up and turn it over, obviously, to the other side, clean it again, anti-static it again. But I do feel more relaxed, because I know that I'm just sitting there, listening to an album, or listening to, maybe half of an album. Whereas with digital, I'm often sitting there, flicking through, looking at what I'm going to listen to next. So straight away, it's putting me in a slightly different emotional state, maybe, listening to records. And I'm enjoying it because it sounds different. It definitely sounds different to digital. But I'm thinking it might be interesting to do some comparisons in the future. Very similar price turntable to a similar price digital setup. How do they compare? What's different? It's not about what's being better or worse, because I want to enjoy both, but it's just how do they compare, and what are the differences? So these are just ideas that I'm floating around in my mind, because I think they could be really interesting. But most important to me, I just really want to enjoy this process. I really want to enjoy it, not put myself under too much pressure to get things perfect too quickly. I just want to enjoy it. And I hope, you've enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful, interesting, maybe inspiring to you as well. And I'm hoping you can maybe give me feedback, along the journey of how I'm doing, whether you can suggest some things to do, maybe even records, to try and seek out and get. That would definitely be helpful. And definitely let me know down below in the comments section, what do you think to my first turntable setup? Do you think I've chosen wisely? Do you think it's a nice setup? I think I have. I think it's a really nice starting point, but I know already that, it's quite a controversial area. Lots of people have got lots more experience than me and very strong opinions. So make sure you let me know down below what you think. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, obviously, if you haven't already. Of course you have. And I'll be seeing you soon with more, vinyl content, and obviously lots more. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye. Bye.